Okay, now what do you think of the dust-up that happened between her and Bernie over these past 3 days? They apparently had a non-aggression pact for the longest time. That pact seems to have frayed. Call script that Politico said was an attack or a slam or a smear, those are the words they used, basically said, I like Elizabeth, she's my second choice, but her supporters are mostly affluent and highly educated. She's not bringing in any new bases into the party. These are, in my opinion, not necessarily slams, but accurate reflections of polling data.
Well, actually, I disagree with that. The idea that she's not bringing a broader base of supporters is false. I've been following these polls now for many, many months, daily. And the idea that only white, affluent, well-educated are voting for her is simply not true. You can go to any of our canvases and our parties. There are a lot of youth out there that are voting for Elizabeth Warren. She's getting African-American support. In fact, right now in Massachusetts, she's doing very well with African-Americans, women in Massachusetts. So when you, and then like just today, there was a list of 40 Trump supporters and Republicans in the state of Iowa that are leaving Donald Trump and have endorsed Elizabeth Warren. So the idea that she can't get blue-collar workers behind her is simply false. Like these are generalizations that I think have been happening somewhat in this campaign season, but these generalizations really aren't going to hold up, I think, when the final votes come out.
It's frivolous. Generalizations about who's supporting who isn't going to help any campaign. And I think at the end of the day, I would really like both campaigns, the Warren and the Sanders campaign, to remain focused, right? Like, what are we actually trying to do here? We're fighting for universal health care. We're fighting for marginalized people. We're fighting for the working class.
I really think that we're having right now a really emblematic difference of the fact that, like, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are not the same candidate. They do not believe in the same things. And the people that are strong supporters of Sanders don't just want a man representative. They want him and his policies. And I think, to your point, being trained as a volunteer, I am 100% certain of the fact that we are not at all told any type of, just like disparaging, like slander against any other candidate.
The other thing is, I think the media is really responsible for this, like how much is blown up. So I remember the headlines are like, Bernie trashes Elizabeth Warren, and she's like, it's unfortunate that he's trashing me or whatever. It's like, first off, it's volunteer. It's a volunteer who's not paid by the campaign. Second off, all they said in that little script that was leaked to Politico was that he has more of a base in the working class than she does. It was something about academics and not the working class and whatever. And is that trashing? Really? And is that Bernie at all?
Especially when the script started out with, I like Elizabeth, in fact, she's my second choice.
Yeah.
Right.
Honestly, it's kind of depressing with Warren's campaign has managed to even turn this into a story. Because at its granule, I don't even think it's true, but exactly what Dante was saying, even if it were to be true, the fact that this is a story is really just says a lot more about the people that want to make it a story than about the story itself.
And, to have a conversation about what was in the script, what was not in the script, can a woman be elected president, can they not? I think it's devolving into a kind of gold mine for misinformation, right? A gold mine for political manipulation in ways that, I think our political opponents would just kind of bank on and want us to talk about those kinds of things, right? And I think in the grand scheme of things, I think it's very inconsequential.
Apparently this private meeting that they had over a year ago, which nobody spoke about up until this point, except to say that the meeting existed, some of her campaign operatives, or they wouldn't even reveal whether they were staffers or who they were, because this is what the media does now. They don't take people on record. They'll just take whatever anybody wants to say. Basically said that Bernie told her that a woman could not win. And he immediately came out, refuted that he said that. And there was a lot of evidence to back up that he wouldn't say something like that, because after all, he said in '88 that a woman could win and should run. He ran against a woman who beat him. He ran against a woman who got 3 million more votes than Donald Trump. And he's always been fighting for women. So she came out with a statement and said she disagreed, which I thought was the opposite of going for unity, because she could have said, well, we remember it differently, or maybe I interpreted something that he said, because they were talking about how Trump was going to weaponize gender.
Elizabeth Warren said this is how she recalled this meeting. And I think we have to be conscious of the fact that right now in the media, the whole idea of a woman not winning a presidency or an election has been talked about quite frequently. And maybe Bernie Sanders made that statement in the past, even though it may have been a kind of a fluke statement, maybe, who knows.
As a woman supporting him, I know in my heart, and I believe wholeheartedly, that he wanted Elizabeth Warren to run in the last election, and she decided not to, and that is the only reason that he took up the progressive candidacy in the last election. And I fundamentally believe that. I have respect in myself as a woman, and I believe that I have an honest sense of judgment, and that is why I believe in what he says, and that is why I believe that she is now saying things that are different from what she said previously.
Well, a lot of people think it's because her candidacy is sort of flailing ever since she backed off on her support for Medicare for all and shifted to a public option. And she's got a lot of Clinton advisors working for her, and this is the same playbook that they used, David Brock used when Clinton was running against Bernie. So if anything, if she's trying to position herself as a unity candidate, this totally backfired.
Right.
Because we had a hashtag yesterday that was I Trust Bernie, Refund Warren, where people are asking for their donations back. I asked for my donation back. And today, Women for Bernie.
There was a lot of tension between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. And this entire memo that was released by the Sanders campaign, this comment, it brings people back to the 2016 election, which we don't really need right now. We don't need those kind of tensions. We need to unify the party, and the way to do that is to focus on the issues.
Right, but the media is the one who's bringing this up, right?
True. That is true. The media are bringing this up, and it'll be interesting to see how the Iowa caucus voters, who are aware of the media and what they're doing, how they will vote in this caucus with all this information.
But Bernie was named an honorary feminist by Gloria Steinem in the 70s. I mean, he is like...
I can't see him saying I can't see that he would say a woman can't be president.
Hillary was in a position to, she got the nomination, so why couldn't he believe she got 3 million more popular votes? So, I don't know. I do think that's a little peculiar, but it sounded like Elizabeth Warren also really didn't want to talk about it. She was like... She was just
things to talk about.
Like creating drama for like The Apprentice, presidential nomination, Democratic debates 2020. This seems like a little bit like a reality show. It's like it was so dramatic the way like the music came out and the candidates came out. And I believe that Trump is probably so pissed that like people are even tuning in.